As I'm recording this, it is the night of Thanksgiving, and yes, many of my horror brothers and sisters who are also making horror content for the YouTubes are talking about horror films they love. Talking about horror films that make them feel comfortable. They're excited. They love discussing these films. I'm going the other way with it. We're going to talk about some movies I don't like. I don't really want to talk about them anymore, but I'm going to do it. Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, not another recommendation list. We are doing something a little bit fun, though. Had a little bit of extra time with the holiday going on this week, so I figured before I dive into my next list, which will be out on Sunday, why not do a little bonus one for you guys here? And this is a concept that I've kind of had on the back burner for a while. And I recently saw some other channels do some similar lists, so I thought, you know what? Must be something in the water, something in the air. Let's get it done. And you guys voted for it, so now I kind of have to do it. And of course, I'm talking about 5 disturbing films that I will never watch again. So with all that out of the way, let's hop into this list. But before we do that, if you are new to the channel, how's it going? Thank you for stopping by. And if you could do me a big favor, please hit that like button. It does help us out with the algorithm on these list videos. And if you think that we deserve it, you like what I'm doing with this channel and with these lists, please hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 20,000 subs. We're trying to get there before the end of the year, and I really think we could do it. So if you could help us just reach a little bit closer to that goal, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, let's hop into these movies. Starting things off at number 5 with 2015's Room. A little boy is held captive in a room with his mother since his birth, so he has never known the world outside. Okay, some of you might be a little confused by this one, and I understand. This is not a conventionally, I guess, disturbing film, but this is a movie that affected me greatly when I went and saw it back in 2015. I just remember going to our little independent theater here in Akron, sitting down and just absolutely being consumed in the grief and depression that is on display in this film. This is a hard watch. This is certainly something that they lean a lot harder into kind of those thriller, will they escape, will they get out their elements through most of it, and it has you on the edge of your seat, and then the rest of the movie has to happen, and that is dealing with the trauma and the grief of what these two characters go through, and it's pretty damn upsetting. It's something that I had a really tough time in the theater watching, and I've just never really had the desire to go back and experience it again. I think that this is a really brilliant film. I think that both our lead actors here with the young Jacob Tremblay and, of course, Brie Larson are top-notch. They absolutely crush it in these roles. They are so convincing as a mother and son, especially people who've been through so much trauma, and it's something that I had to say was just absolutely admirable. I thought it was one of the best films of the year that year, but I can't watch it. I can't subject myself to it again. There's a few key specific scenes that just like hint at things, and they make me sick to my stomach. And then there's one scene that just, especially being a parent now and having my own son, no, I can't go through that. I couldn't imagine going through any of this. And it is a film that, yeah, I know, not traditionally disturbing, but absolutely gets under my skin, and I can't go back to it. Moving on over to my number 4 pick, we have 2024's The Devil's Bath. In the year 1750, Agnes doesn't feel at home in her husband's world, and one shocking act seems to be the only way out. Yes, folks, this is a rather recent addition to my films I will never watch again list, and this, just like all the others on this list, is a very well-made movie. And I do believe that the subject matter they are tackling and how they approach the material is really cool and really important because it's different. It's something that I don't think I knew anything about until after I saw it, and then in which case you kind of start diving into it and you realize the stuff that they're talking about, the element that they are hinting towards in that description, it's all based off of real events. Now, Agnes, the character, and the exact situations you see are wholly made up for the film, but they are based off of accounts of women and mothers and things that happened in this time period and in this area. It's awful. It is horrifyingly depressing, and it just, again, gets under my skin. It's something that I just, when watching this, was so caught up in just the beauty of the film and how it was shot and how it was paced. And then, you watch this woman who should have the rest of her life laid out for her. She just got married, and she's, living in this era where she's really just basically looked at saying, hey, all you got to do now is push out a few babies and take care of the house. Well, she's having a little bit of trouble with that part, and you watch just how quickly society turns on her and where her head goes and how she goes about handling it and how she goes about making sure that she can kind of, I guess, get out of the situation is appalling. It's shocking, and it's a scene that will not leave my mind anytime soon, nor will the very end of this movie. It ends in such a wild, absolutely bombastic way. I was very blown away by this movie. I know not many people have seen it. It is available on Shudder now if you want to check it out, but I do warn you, this is a very serious film. It is very dark, very depressing. The subject matter will hit you hard, but that is, I guess, kind of the toll you're going to pay for something like this when you're talking about this kind of stuff. Yeah, really dancing around some things there, but I hear me out. Just look deeper into the film yourself and you'll find out exactly what I'm talking about, because The Devil's Bath is certainly something that is not for the faint of heart. Jumping into my number 3 pick, we have 1995's Kids. A day in the life of a group of teens as they travel around New York City, skating, drinking, smoking, and deflowering virgins. Kids is a movie that I saw, I think, at the perfect time in my life. I saw this, I think, between my junior and senior year, and this is a movie that, maybe a bit controversial to say, I think you should show to some high schoolers. I think you should kind of introduce younger adults to this kind of material, because this is a film that, although maybe a bit dated by today's standards and kind of how the kids act and what they talk about and everything, the message that it's trying to put forth is very, very important. And it's talking about the risk that young people seem to take with, experimenting with their bodies, experimenting with partners, and just how careless we can be when we are at that age, and how it's very important to take those precautions. And yeah, it's definitely a movie that doesn't shy away from very uncomfortable subject matter. We have characters who are young themselves, going into very explicit acts. You don't see anything too graphic, but explicit acts with people that are even younger than them. And it's very uncomfortable. It's a very, very layered film with kind of two sets of teens, as we see how the girls are reacting to one thing and the guys are reacting to another. And it's just a very odd way to kind of tell a story, but it all kind of comes together in the end with two revelations. One that you get about halfway through the story, which talks about HIV and just what happens with it. And then this final sequence towards the very end of this film, involving our main female character Jenny and a character called Casper, which is so deplorable and so gut-wrenching and sad and tragic and brutal. It's just something that I don't want to experience again when I sit down to watch movies, because I watch them to escape and have fun and see stories. And again, important story here, very important film with a lot of great messaging, but something that just I couldn't put myself through this again. It's important. It shows the realities of what it's like to live carelessly with this kind of stuff and how it can affect people who are just getting to the start of their lives. So I commend the filmmakers. I commend the team for this. But God, some of this stuff is just absolutely sickening. Moving into my number 2 pick, we have 2022's The Uncle. Set in Yugoslavia in the late 1980s, a family welcomes their beloved uncle, who has returned home from Germany for the holidays. What a deceptive little description that is. That is so on the surface of what this movie is. And before we get into this, I should state that this is something that I saw at a festival about 2 years ago. Does not have an official release. I have no clue what the holdup is, but I want to put it on here because it's certainly a film that affected me, and it deserves its spot. So when I talk about this, depending on when you're watching this movie isn't technically released yet, but it should be soon. You can look it up as The Uncle from 2022 or Strick, that's the German title, and I'm sure you'll get some information about it soon. I don't have anything right now, but nonetheless, this movie, it's a trip, man. It's something real rough. This movie bills itself as a dark comedy, and I really have a hard time finding any comedy in this. This is a film that made me beat my head against the wall while I was watching it for this festival. I was having such a tough time watching our characters interact with each other. It is, in and of itself, this psychological torture that we have to not only watch these characters go through, we have to kind of experience in and of ourselves. And it's so frustrating. It is absolutely just going to twist your eyeballs out of your skull frustrating. I mean, I'm sitting here watching this movie and watching these characters make decisions, and I don't even fully know what is on the line. Why are we doing this? What's going on? And that's the brilliance of the film. It's supposed to make you feel that way. So that way, when the ending happens, it absolutely drops your stomach to the floor. And it's too much. I can't do it. I will never watch this movie again, even though I do respect it for what it's trying to do. I think there will be people who will come out of this film and absolutely laud it and love it. I am not one of those people. I can't sit here and watch these events take place, watch these uncomfortable, unreasonably insane situations take place over and over again and get any enjoyment out of it. I just have a very, very tough relationship with this movie. So I'm very curious to see how people are going to take it when it finally does release to everybody. And that's pretty much all I can say without getting too deep into what exactly is going on. So if you are a filmmaker for The Uncle, if you know the filmmakers for The Uncle, find out what the deal is. I want people to see this. I want people to get their opinions out there, because am I just crazy? Am I just too sensitive? Or is this thing a nightmare in all circumstances? And claiming my number 1 spot for disturbing films that I will never watch again, we have 1985's Come and See. After finding an old rifle, a young boy joins the Soviet resistance movement against the ruthless German forces and experiences the horrors of World War II. We have a lot of films that tackle the subject matter of World War II from many, many different angles. This, to me, is one of the ones that I would put up there with, like, Schindler's List, as far as just being very effective and dealing with some subject matter that it's a very, very brutal, honest, and tough watch. You're watching this kid, essentially, just being a kid at the beginning of this movie, and you have to watch his soul literally be ripped from his body and just thrown out there, stomped on, trampled on, forced back down his throat, and then just say, hey, live with it. That is the best way I can describe the events of Come and See, because this is certainly a film that I definitely believe is very important. It's something that we need to preserve. It's something that I think is very important to our society, to just see what this war was like from not just the typical United States, all these other sides of it, not just from a concentration camp angle. This is something where it's just villages. It's just people who were also affected that we don't really get to see the sides of. Again, we're dealing with Soviet resistance here, and it's kind of wild. It's insane to see the brutality, the tragedy, the psychological angle to it, just the physical angle of what this character has to go through. And the main character here, the actor himself, I cannot pronounce your name, sir, but the facial expressions, the physical acting that this kid does, it's remarkable. It is so believable. It makes me wildly uncomfortable to watch. And it's something that, you know, it's going to depress you. It's going to make you feel terrible. And it's going to make you think. It's really going to make you think about where we were as a people, as a society, when this stuff was going on. And I think it is very, very important, very expertly done, an amazing feature from start to finish, an important film, but just something that I don't think I could sit down and really put myself through again. I don't know if I could sit down and experience this film but one time. And strangely enough, I would support it. I'd own it. I would do all these things to recommend it. But I just need people to understand this is unflinching. This is tough. This is real. This is brutality in the greatest sense of you can imagine, really. Like, I am kind of at a loss for words on this part. But nonetheless, Come and See is my number one pick, and it's got all the reason in the world to be that. So that's everything I have to say on this film. If you feel the same way, feel free to let me know down below. If you have not seen this, look into it, see if it's something you can handle, and definitely give it a shot, because it's something else. Well, there you have it, guys. That is 5 films that I never want to experience again. But definitely, like I said, for damn near all of them, are important movies. They are very well made, very well constructed. They do exactly what they set out to do, and they've just affected me on a pretty personal level, a pretty great level, in the sense of just I think they work, but I don't want to watch them again. So there you go. That's my list. I definitely had, I guess, some honest enjoyment talking about these because, again, they're important, they're interesting. It's a different take than me just gushing about movies that I love. So yeah, definitely let me know what you thought down below. What are some films that you will never sit down and watch again? Again, I wanted to approach this from the side of movies that aren't just gory or in your face like Human Centipede and, you know, all that stuff like that, like Solo. But if those are movies that you feel like you want to discuss, feel free, as always, drop them down there. But if there are movies that maybe it's just a little bit different, maybe it just hits you in a very special way, let me know about those too. I'd be very curious to see what people answer with. Other than that, again, if you're new to the channel, thank you for watching this video all the way through. I deeply appreciate it, and I'd love it if you could give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and that's about it, guys. So I will see you at the end of the week with another list, a very fun list, completely changing the game from this one 100%. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for me. So until next time, guys, I am Dylan Newell, and remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live, 'cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.